Yo, take a seat.
Sher Street Podcast. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Joey Sher. Today on the podcast, we are interviewing Nick Capone, a local artist who is amazing at digital art and has had a booth at the Garden State Comic Fest. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is actually the first podcast I've ever been part of. So it's quite an honor, actually. So thank you for having me.
No problem. This is my first episode, so I'm quite
Even more of
nervous.
an honor.
So let's get right in. Describe the process behind your art.
Well, it really all depends on the gig I'm working on. It really, for example, as a freelance artist, I'm a part of a couple different workspaces. One which is more of like my main job, where I work at a publishing company called Jonpaul Publishing. It's a publishing company that distributes like D&D, Dungeons and Dragons related content, modules. We are currently doing an anthology book, which is like just a compilation of like 5-page comics.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's deadlines are tough, but it's pretty exciting. And then my other freelance gig, I am also a comic book colorist. So I'm the person who makes the comics pop. Yeah. I help bring it to life, and that's also a really cool thing. Like, I'm currently coloring a cover. Actually, it's a cover for this comic book that funded from someone from my college I went to. I went to the Kubert School in Dover. They funded their comic, and a bunch of us artists are like helping out, and obviously getting paid for it. It's a gig, but I'm coloring over one of my friends that I graduated with, so it's pretty fun. But typically, in a sense of process, I work mostly digital now, because I have I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called a Wacom Cintiq. It's basically like
I have no clue.
Okay, so basically it's a tablet, like a drawing tablet.
Yeah.
But instead of it just being like just that board, it has a screen on it, and it mirrors your computer like monitor on the thing. So it kind of gives more of like a simulation, like you're actually like drawing.
So like realistically.
More, yes. Obviously, it's not realistically, but it's more or less gives you the feel. But I got that like almost a year ago actually, and ever since then I've been working digital nonstop. Even with like my webcomic Sandy, all of it's digital. Every single issue from start to finish is digital, and but usually my process, typically I'll start with the non-digital aspect, which is like I would get like a scrap piece of paper and draw some layouts, and the layouts could be as detailed as like almost finished pieces, or they could be like chicken scratch. I usually stick with chicken scratch because it saves a lot of time.
What is chicken scratch?
Like stick figures and basically like
just like
scribbles,
random doodles, right?
Yeah, it's more or less just giving you like a very, very little basic indication on like what you're gonna do, and then after that then this is when I go digital. I'd go in, I use Clip Studio Paint. For those who are aware of that or not aware, it's like I used to call Manga Studio. It's basically like the software for comic book art. It's really cool. It has a bunch of like cool effects and panels and such. I love it so much. But I usually go in there, do my digital pencils. Once I like the pencils that I have, and this could take days, it could take a week of like just deciphering how these pencils are coming about. Then I'll go to the next stage, which is inks. And so, going to the Kubert School, I would use a brush and a quill pen, but this software has both a brush and a quill brush. So it makes things a lot easier, makes it less messier. So I would just continue using inks, and then I would also use a lot of like duotone or screen tones. Like if you're familiar with like manga and anime, like the little dots that are like in the comics.
Yeah, like
That-
Star Wars comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all screen tone, so
That's amazing.
that I use. And then once I like where the inks are going, I bring my page into Photoshop, and I will
Photoshop.
Yeah.
I used to be in a photography class back in like high school, and the one thing they told me was, with Photoshop, there's nothing you can't do. There's like endless
Oh,
possibilities.
absolutely.
It's
There's
just
like the limit does not
insane.
exist with what you're capable of doing in Photoshop. It's amazing. But yeah, I bring it into Photoshop. I make my palette, my color palettes that I'm gonna use, and then I color it. And then lastly, I mean, I could do this before the colors or after the colors. I should probably do it after the colors because I feel like it'd be a lot more easier. I would go into Adobe Illustrator and letter my comic, and then I just prepare the file and post it online. So
That's amazing.
thank you.
There's a lot of work to that too, but
It's funny because it's like
it seems. a little simple.
I do it so many times that I don't even think of it being as a lot of work anymore. I think of it like, oh, it's the normal, like, you know, the normal process. But to some like you're like, oh my god, that's just freaking crazy. But yeah, it's quite a process.
Yeah. So, you actually already covered the one of the question I was going for, but do you sketch your ideas in a book or tablet?
Sometimes both actually. Mostly in a sketchbook. I actually have a little sketchbook. It was like $2 at like the Walmart or something. I got it, a little thing, but I basically use that only for
Chicken scratch?
yeah, chicken scratch. There you go.
I like your term for that.
Yeah, no, literally, I wish I brought some of my sketchbooks with me because like legit, it looks like a 2-year-old was drawing in my sketchbook.
I would totally show them off with the camera over it too. For
Yeah.
Like another video or something.
Yeah, like it's so. my layouts are so bad sometimes because I feel like only I could, like, read it or like understand what's going on. Like if I show it to someone else, they're like, oh, like what's going on here?
Or
I'm just
hey,
yeah.
can I read that?
There's a rare instance sometimes when I would legit not know what's going on in my layouts that I drew.
I feel you. I kind of get like stuck with that when I do like digital art when it comes to like my iPad. I draw some and I'm like, is that spray paint? I'm
Yeah.
like, no, that's something else.
Yeah, but that's the best way to kind of figure out, like, I guess the app you use has a spray paint brush or thing.
Yeah, it has like a lot of different tools you can use. Like I remember Photoshop, you have the clone tool. That was like my favorite one on
Yeah,
earth.
the clone tool I remember I used that in high school. I've never really found other than like being taught how to use it. I never found like a reason for me to personally use it, but yeah, like that's the best way to learn the process. Like obviously tutorials online help, but me myself, a lot of the methods I've learned prior to going to college for it, it was all just like you know, messing up a lot and like just
You have
pressing
to
random buttons, like, ooh, what does this do? And then you're like, oh, I kind of like that. So then you stick with it, and then you're taught in college not to do what you've done this long.
I feel you there. When I was in a photography class, like during high school after I graduated, I went to CCM for a little while for my first semester. I was in a class with my boy Tommy. Shout out to Tom Hardos. We were in this class together. It was like Multimedia 1, Multimedia 2 or something like that. And she taught us, or our teacher, she taught us how to use Photoshop and like all these different programs. And then I remember being like so stressed out with it. Like the last few weeks, like we learned like everything through like a few months. And then it was March, and then it was like, hey, class is ending soon. We'll give you 2 weeks, or like a little bit less, maybe like 5 days or so, to use everything you learned to make one big thing out of it. And I'm like,
Challenge accepted.
okay, I'll try. So, I did my work, I tried. And then the final came, I didn't even go to it. And I got a B.
There you go.
I don't know what Tom did, but
I had this bizarre attitude in high school where so basically I knew since sophomore year the college I was going to. I've been going to that school as like a Saturday, they have Saturday drawing classes at my school.
that's cool.
And I actually teach them now, but like it's ironic because I used to start out going there since I was really young. So I've been going there for a few years, and then middle of high school I'm like, you know what, I want to be an artist. And so I thought nothing, like I had a couple options actually. I was thinking of going to SVA in the city, or the art institutes in the city I think it was, or somewhere in another state. But then there's this school that was in Dover, so it's close, and I know the environment well enough that I'm like not gonna be so nervous
Or loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the attitude I had in high school was like, first off, when I took my SATs for the first time, I flunked badly. I got like 1100. I almost actually got my test voided because I was using a mechanical pencil for the first part, and they're like, but luckily I didn't. But anyways, that's like sidetracking. But like I had the mentality that like, I don't care if I fail this, I'm going to art school. I didn't even apply to the school yet, but I'm just like, I'm going to art school. And then later on I applied to the art school, got accepted, and then I was in like AP German and like a bunch of my classes, and like they were asking me like, you're gonna take the German exam, right? The AP exam. I go to my teacher, I'm like, well, already got accepted into the school I want to go to, and they only need my high school transcripts. I go to her, I'm like, is it really that necessary for me to take the AP final? And she's like, if you really think of it that way, probably not. So you could be exempt. So, and I passed with that class with flying colors.
Amazing.
I passed with like a 94 average the whole year in AP German. But all forgotten now because I went to art school for 3 years.
Danke.
Bitte. but yeah.
So you know German?
If you asked me when I was 18, I would have started a conversation with you easily, but now I haven't spoken the language in like 5 years, because I was out of high school for 5 years. So I'm very rusty right now.
That's like me with Spanish.
Yeah, I actually, I feel like a lot of like middle schools only taught Spanish.
Yes.
I took Spanish in middle school. I hated it by like 8th grade. I was so done with it. So when I had the option to choose what language I wanted to do in high school, I was like German. But I heard German was kind of easier because I had trouble with the grammar of like in Spanish.
Yeah.
So I just was like I almost like at one point I borderline almost flunked Spanish. So we're in for like an extra credit assignment. So it was bad, but I vowed never to speak the language again.
When I was in middle school, we had this, it was either you do choir or something called Discovery. And Discovery, you go around to like a bunch of these teachers and they teach you something. I remember they taught me how to salsa dance 3 times in a row with the same teacher.
Oh my god.
Forever, I am scarred for life.
I definitely, if that was me, I would never look at my teacher the same way ever again.
I was like, I can't dance. And then when prom came around, I'm like, I'm not salsa dancing.
Yeah, like, that's just a very acquired dance for a very specific time. You can't just, like,
You can't do
burst
that.
out in salsa.
Unless it's like one of those like ball dances or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez. So, I have another question for you.
Sure.
Do you have anything to say to or inspire those youngins out there, like young people who are trying to get into art?
I feel like what I'm gonna say is very cliche, but like, just don't stop drawing. But also with that said, I'll be a little more realistic. If for those out there who want to pursue a career in art, you just got to be aware that a majority of your career, you're most likely going to be a freelancer. You know, yes, the corporate art jobs, they're there, but they're very, how do I put it? I don't want to say, they're a little like, they'll give you a little more of a hard time when it comes to applying to work. And luckily I've worked for the best of both worlds. So, you know, right out of college, I've done a little bit of graphic design. I worked for a firm for a little bit, but if you really, that's another debate between graphic design and art. So, some people don't consider it art, some people do, some people think it's just like another medium to use. I personally did not have the best experience working in like the corporate quote-unquote art field, but it just wasn't me. Like, I felt like I wasn't drawing enough to the point where I felt like if I stood with it, it would have hindered my drawing ability in the long run. And as any artist's goal, I feel like it would be to improve over time. So I felt like if I stood with graphic design, I wouldn't have improved over time. But with that said, going back to what I was trying to say is that
Keep drawing.
not just keep drawing, but you know, some of the best clients, the best paying art jobs I've had were through like freelancing, and because it's a very connection based industry. You have to go to shows. You have to go. Well, it just all depends on what you want to do. The limit does not really exist in the art world. There's so much you can do, but you have to find the field in the art community that you kind of are interested in. Do a lot of research. See how people like.
There's a lot
connect.
of routes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
scouts. Connect with people who might be to your benefit. You know, I knew at a young age. You know, I always wanted to be an illustrator of some sort. I always wanted to be creating. But, you know, if I could choose an occupation in the art industry, it would definitely be in comics. I love comics. I grew up on comics.
I read them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And, you know, I go to these shows and I befriended so many, like, editors for, like, DC, Marvel, Dynamite. I have befriend other artists. I mean, just generally just people who are willing to help you. That's the thing that people don't realize about the art community is that everyone, they think it's like so competitive.
It's really not.
It's really not. Like, obviously there are some people out there who are very competitive, but ultimately from what I've experienced so far, and like, mind you, I've been out of college for 2 years, so I officially became I was quote-unquote freelancing for a few years now, but officially I've been freelancing for like 2 years, and from what I've experienced in those 2 years is that everyone's just out to help each other.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we all know the process, the lifestyle of being an artist. You know, you're gonna have your ups, you're gonna have your down moments, you're gonna have your moments where you're doing great. Like, knock on wood right now, I could say I'm really doing great. I'm, like, swamped with deadlines. And, you know, there's going to be a time, unfortunately, that, you know, you could be so proactive, but there's really nothing, like, out there. But that's mostly, for the most part, temporary. But that's why you see a lot of artists today have either day jobs, part-time jobs. Like me, I work at BJ's with you, and, like...
Yeah. I
so-
slice cheese all day.
Yeah, like...
But
I don't look at it in a way where it's like I'm failing in a sense.
yeah.
Because I'm not failing, because I make money of what I do and I'm proud of what I've accomplished. But it's just extra money. I'm young, you're young, we
Yeah.
need money. But like, but for anyone who wants to like be an artist, you just have to realize that don't expect yourself to, you know, be this like, oh, this big comic book artist out of college, or oh, this big like famous artist. It's not like that.
Nothing
like,
comes easy.
I'm gonna be very like, I'm gonna exaggerate a little bit, but like you hear like some of these like famous singers and songwriters, they like lived in their car for a few months, or like they were so broke they were like
Post Malone lived in his closet.
yeah, they were like
Yeah.
couch hopping, like friends' houses. Not saying that's gonna be the case for anyone. That certainly wasn't the case for me, but you know, we all start somewhere, and sometimes we start not in the best environment, the best place, but the big thing is to really keep your head up high about it. It's definitely an industry where people judge people who want to go into it because, people tend to be ignorant and are like, oh, like, artists, like, they're starving artists, quote unquote, or like, that should just be a hobby. It should be like, it's not like a career. Those people, they're just what's wrong.
Yeah.
Because they don't look into like the
toxic people.
Yeah, they don't look into like the logistics of it, and it's really not the case. A lot of us artists make money, like but yeah, you just have to keep your head held high. Be open to criticism. Be open to having people telling you either to fix something that you drew or straight up your work sucks, and do not let that, like, if someone tells you that your work sucks, just brush it off. Don't.
Yeah.
Because you know why? I remember one of my teachers told me this. He was actually an old. His name was Hy Eisman. He was a legendary Popeye artist for decades.
Popeye? Like the Sailor Man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still to this day, he's like 90-something. He had just retired from my school, but he told everyone in our class, actually. He goes, for every 100 people that like your work, there's 300 people who hate your work. And then for every 300 people that like your work, there's like 500 people who hate your work. It's just the way the world goes. It's just, you're always going to have someone not a fan of your artwork or not a fan of you per se. But if you are open to, constructive criticism, or if you're just generally open to like accept the fact that there are people out there who are not so fond of your work or won't hire you, it's just, then you will be successful. Because I know a lot of artists who legit have developed such a huge ego because they're not open to criticism. They think that their work is amazing, and they think that what they say goes, but really it's not the case. Like, you just have to be really open to criticism. You have to have a very open mindset, always willing to change, always willing to improve, and then
adapt.
Yeah,
adaptability.
Not just that though, but also I've talked to a few editors. A few editors have were guest speakers at my school one day, and someone actually asked them kind of like the same question you were, like, what does it take to get into the comic industry?
Oh, here we go. Fixed it, I think.
A little bit of technical difficulties here.
Yep, technical difficulties with the Mac.
But it's okay.
We're back.
But going back to what I was saying previously was people would ask like these editors that were like speaking at my school, like, what does it take to get into the industry? What does it take to be a successful artist? And they're like, you have to have 2 of 3 things. You either have to be really good, really fast, and not an asshole. That's literally what they said.
I like that third part a lot.
Yeah, not an asshole, because legit. And since it's the art community, as flourishing and like big as you think it is actually a really small community. So if you're quote unquote an asshole, everyone's gonna know you're an asshole at some point.
Oh yeah.
Not even with you interacting with them, but they're gonna hear from other people that like this person's tough to work with.
It all goes back to connections.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to, like, those 3 things are really important. But like I said, as an artist, obviously keep drawing. Then keep your head held high. Be open to criticism. Don't be an asshole.
Don't
make your connections, and be realistic. Like I said, be realistic. It's not gonna be like a walk in the park to become a successful artist. Like, it took me so long. I'm finally like putting my feet in the water in a sense, like where people are starting to recognize me more. But that doesn't mean I've officially broken in yet. I'm getting there, but I'm already out of college 2 years, and sometimes it takes 2 years, sometimes it takes 2 months, sometimes it takes like 10 years to finally break in. But you really have to just keep your head held high.
When I was in high school, someone gave me a nickname, and it's kind of like sprouted out into this YouTube land. I set like a really far goal for myself. I'm like, I'm gonna make 1,000 followers. Look at me on Instagram. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And so I like I got addicted to like popularity, and I had like this ego to myself. And
Well,
yeah,
how you're what, 19 again?
I'm like 20 now, but like
Okay.
what I
No.
did was I deleted it, my account, and I started all over again. And when I graduated high school, I'm like, I'm glad I left popularity and all that behind.
No, I feel like high school, like, I'll admit, it's actually funny because
I did not fit into a single group.
it wasn't that in my case, but I remember in high school, I was such, like, I was a little dick.
Oh, God.
Like,
Same.
recently I met my ex-girlfriend at the convention I was running a few weeks ago.
She came right to the booth.
Yeah, but like the thing is, cause she cosplays now, but her and I were really tight. We dated. Everything was good, but when we broke up, it was like all hell broke loose, and
Oof.
I was just an asshole to her, and she was an asshole to me. But and it was funny because we were like laughing about this at the table, like, hey, remember when we dated? And she was like, yeah, like you were such an asshole. I'm like, but she's like, it's okay because I was like a low key bitch anyways. So I'm like, yeah, it was like both our faults. But like going back, like high school, I had this like ego to me where I felt like I had the right to be an asshole. But I feel like generally in that environment, I feel a lot of kids feel that way in high school where they feel like they'll be heard if they're an asshole.
Or if they have a voice, or like.
Yeah. If they have it's very, and like once I started hitting 20 a little bit, because like I'm 23 now, but like once I started hitting like 19, 20, I started realizing how that was all just like,
It was all just
dumb.
in the head.
It was all
just
dumb.
all dumb.
You look back and you're like when people are like, hey, remember in high school? I'm just like, oh, don't remind me. Because like legit, yeah, high school was a time where I guess we were all just like,
Growing up.
well,
Yeah, like,
not growing up per se, but we thought we knew everything. We thought we were all
Yeah.
grown up, but really,
We
like,
have- we have
you
so
don't
much
know
to
what
learn.
the world's good at. Like, for
it's
example,
scary.
second I got out of college, like, I actually, and this is very common with, like, I guess people who just graduate college, and, it's very stressful, and in the society we live today, I went through a little bit of a depression, like, because, realistically, I barely, like, I would draw all the time growing up, but, like, I never wanted to pursue an art career until 3 years ago when I wanted to go to school. And so I really wasn't educated enough about the industry just yet, so I'm just like, oh, I'll just go out there and make money.
Wing
And-
it.
Yeah. And
Much
then-
like this podcast.
Yeah. And, like, my parents were, as supportive as they were also very, adamant, I'm an only child, so I'm the only one they have. They want to see me succeed. Love them to death, but I felt like they were a little bit like persistent on me, like doing what they kind of think the art industry is. So
Go out there and get yourself a job in a cubicle.
Yeah, and like legit, they didn't know how it works, and
We keep going if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they just didn't understand how it works, and it was like months and months of like constant fighting, but not to get super personal, but like it's stressful because I felt the real world just punched me in the face. Like 19, I wasn't even like old enough to drink when I graduated college. I was like 19, 20, and like the real world like punched me in the face. Like I was like going in denial. I was losing sleep. I was like basically telling myself like, is it worth it like to be an artist anymore? But all said and done, that was then. I'm in a so much better place now. I'm very happy. I'm successful, knock on wood. But I think in high school we weren't prepared for that. People think that college will be the best 4 or 3 years of your life.
It's a lot of hard
It's
work.
fun. I had great times.
It's
I
fun.
have my class, my friends. They're kind of like family to me now. But like, by the time you're like the last few months of your senior year, that's when stuff gets real. And either you accept that, or like me, you kind of go in like a denial, being like, why aren't things going my way? And if you go down that route, it's gonna be a little bumpy for you from experience. For me, at least, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, but yeah, definitely. Like, high school doesn't prepare you, and like people kind of form these like egos in high school, but they think they're so mature then, but clearly they're not.
They lose them.
They lose
eventually.
Yeah, like I'm a different person now, actually. Like,
me too. I feel a lot different now. Like, very different out of high school.
Yeah, like, and like usually for most part for a lot of people it's for the better, because like
friends go away, but you make new friends along the path.
Absolutely. So, it's life, I guess.
That's life. I mean, that's the way life goes.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's a Uzi Vert song, but whatever.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, what did your ex dress up as for cosplay? A dragon?
The first day. Well, do you watch the show Riverdale?
I've heard of it. It's on Netflix, right?
The first day she went as Cheryl Blossom, and the second day she went as Betty Cooper.
Betty what?
Betty Cooper.
Oh.
They're both characters. It's based off of Archie comics, so like Betty.
Archie comics.
Yeah.
Okay. I have not watched any of that.
Yeah.
So,
it's a good show, and like the comics are really great.
What is your favorite comic book superheroes, like Marvel and DC?
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, I'm going quick here.
You're going in.
Beam.
But
it's mainly what I watch.
It's hard to say it, but I'm trying to think. Like growing up, well, it wasn't
I'm like a Green Arrow and Spider-Man guy.
Yeah, like I loved Batman and Spider-Man growing up. I want to say, as weird as this is gonna sound, the '90s Catwoman was a very definitive.
You had a picture of that, right?
Yeah, it was a very like definitive moment to me art career wise, because the purple suit Catwoman, like the '90s Catwoman, was like the first comic book I've ever picked up. I remember my mom. I actually remember the day I picked it up too. My mom and I went to. There was a comic store in Bud Lake that closed down, sadly. And that one, the cover was just so beautifully drawn, like for what I thought. And I picked it up, and I just was like looking through the pictures, and like I think I saw this character, and as weird as it sounds, like, you know when you have like a crush on like a famous person? Well, I had like as a little kid, I had a crush on Catwoman for some reason. But I think what admired me the most about her was how she was one of those characters that, you know, were like drop dead gorgeous, voluptuous, yet she can kick your ass, and like that's to me like was so appealing. And then when I read the story, I actually to this day started to collect more and more of her comics. The stories are actually pretty cool, but yeah, I definitely would say. And then also the artist who drew Catwoman was also the reason why I wanted to pursue an art career, because I was just obsessed with his style. And then I later on found out that that exact artist, Jim Ballant, went to my school. At the Kubert School, and it was really cool. I met him at a show in AC like last year.
Water for you.
Thank you.
No problem.
And like, yeah, he was so cool. But ultimately, Catwoman was one of my favorite female superheroes. My favorite superhero, like male superhero, would have to be. Well, actually, can it be like?
You're gonna say Superman, because I know he's got like 3 powers or more.
Honestly, as weird as it sounds, Inuyasha. Have you ever watched Inuyasha?
Never seen it.
It's like the '90s anime, but it was like fucking amazing, man.
I need to see this.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. He was also one of my favorite comic book characters. And actually, the villain in that show is really cool too. His brother Sasamaru. But now I'm just sounding like a total weeb.
No.
But
I don't know even what you're saying half the time, but it's all right. I mean,
but yeah.
I watched some weeb shows too, like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, I love Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Not so much The Legend of Korra. I mean, that's not me.
I agree on you there, buddy. Like, I love Legend of Korra. Don't get me wrong, but I liked how it like showed like how bending has advanced through time, but
Yeah.
I don't know, storytelling wise, character wise, I just liked Avatar a lot better.
It had more mystery to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even they had Dante Bosco, the guy who played Zuko,
Yeah.
the voice actor. I was actually watching a show today on Rooster Teeth. Have you seen Camp Camp?
No.
It's like these kids in a summer camp, and there's this guy named Max, this little kid named Max, and he hates the summer camp. Kind of like me back when I was in like Boy Scout camp for like 3 summers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is really funny and interesting. They got Dante Bosco to voice act this character named Snake, and I'm like, he has an eye patch. Is that Snake Plissken? I'm like, this is a cool show.
Yeah. That definitely was a cool show. But going back, I think my 2 favorite superheroes of all time would be Inuyasha and Catwoman.
Inuyasha.
Very odd selection because I bet you were thinking like you think a lot of the population was like, oh, Batman's my favorite character, Superman's my favorite character,
Deadpool,
Wonder Woman. I'm like,
yeah,
they're all kind of cool, but like we all have our favorites. So I mean, those have to be my favorites. So.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, everybody has like a different like character that suits them.
Yeah.
Like, I play Green Arrow.
Green Arrow's pretty cool.
Because Hanzo. Because, yeah. And I think Spider-Man just for the comedy.
I always liked Spider-Man. I never really went out of my way to like read a lot of his comics. Like I mean, I read some of his comics growing up, but like I was more into like the show, the Spider-Man the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite shows are Batman the Animated Series, and then
that's a good one.
And then X-Men.
X-Men.
The 90s X-Men.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. Those were my favorite shows growing up. So those are. I mean, I also like the X-Men too. But,
yeah, I mean, some of the movies I've seen, like, I haven't seen Logan. I haven't seen most of the X-Men movies. I did see Days of Future Past.
Yeah, that was an alright one. Like I need to catch up myself. Like my friends dragged me to the last the current Avengers movie. And like
Infinity War?
Yeah, and I like, kind of knew what was going on, but at the same time I didn't because I haven't watched. Like I only watched the last Avengers movie I've watched was the first one.
Same.
So I don't know what was going on for the most part. I'm like, oh wait, this happened. Oh, why is this happening? Why is this character doing this?
The last Marvel movie I actually saw, it was a good movie. I don't know why I won't watch it again though. It was Doctor Strange. I'm like,
yeah, that was a good one.
I should have picked him instead of Spider-Man.
No, that was a really good one. Like, I liked that one. Even Ant-Man was kind of cool.
I did not see Ant-Man and the new Ant-Man that came out recently. I'm like,
I heard that was really good
these
too.
Marvel movies are coming out like dollars.
Yeah.
So many movies coming out.
Yeah. And I feel like generally growing up, people always, it's a stigma that people try to push, but really it's like doesn't matter at a certain age. But people always either were like, oh, I gravitate more to DC comics, or oh, I gravitate more to Marvel comics, and
People pick a side.
Yeah, and growing up, I have to say I was more of a DC person. I would read more DC comics. Marvel, I started reading more Marvel comics like within the last few years. My friends from school got me into a lot of the Marvel series today, but yeah, it just does. I actually read a lot of indie comics, so indie comics are the way to go. I mean, look at my comic. My comic's very indie.
I listen to a lot of indie music too, like alternative.
Me too.
It's like, I don't know, music and like art to me are like they go together. My teacher used to tell me, art is everything, and I believe.
Much, if you really think
that.
of it.
Yeah.
The shirt you're wearing, you don't think they had artists to make that before the people started to like actually sew together, or like, I don't.
You thought I went to work today?
Yeah.
And I'm like, This is a Greg Norman.
Speaking of which, I hate those shirts.
This is a Greg Norman golf shirt.
That's good.
I'm going golfing later. I don't know.
There you go.
Or work. Who knows?
Oh god.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they could change them up a bit or something. I'm just glad I changed my hat finally.
Yeah, I just like I mean I was only there. I'm almost there for like 2 years now, but like I heard before there they used to wear vests.
Really?
Yeah.
That's like the school in my backyard right here.
Yeah.
They have to wear uniforms throughout like winter and summer.
Uh.
I see them in these like red sweatshirts in like the middle of summer. Well, that's what I used to see. I don't know about now, but yeah, I mean, who wears sweatshirts in summertime?
Yeah.
Like you said, I see people at work in sweatpants.
Yeah, mostly night crew. Like,
Yeah.
You see a few people who could like kind of hide it in a sense, or like if they're in the back, it doesn't matter.
It don't matter.
I really truly think it's more or less for the people like up front.
Yeah.
Who are actually like dealing with customers all day.
We should probably not focus on work. They'll be like, oh, we're going to fire these guys for talking about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
So who's your favorite pop singers right now?
Pop singers.
Could be any K-pop, where do you listen
well, like, my music taste is very eclectic. It's very,
Different.
not different. It's just like, listen, I don't want to sound like the typical people who are like, I listen to everything but country, but
That's
kind
me.
of like,
That's me.
but I kind of listen to everything but country and most rap. I like, currently, I listen to Panic at the Disco. I love Panic at the Disco. I'm seeing them this week.
Alright.
Yeah, I'm going on vacation to Maryland to see them, and it's gonna be so exciting. I love his voice. I think he has one of the best voices.
Brandon Urie, right?
Yeah, Brandon Urie. I think he has one of the best voices of our generation, to me at least. With that said, I listen to like I said, anything. Like I grew up with that like late '90s, early 2000s teen
Blink
pop
182.
trash. No, like the teen pop trash, like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Britney, Christina, like all
Fall
like.
Out Boy.
I didn't
That's
like
a little
Fall
bit more,
Out Boy.
you know.
I didn't like Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, I like early Fall Out Boy. Just a little bit.
And then when I started to get a little older, I started to go back, as in like I listened to more '90s music, not necessarily pop, but like
Rap.
'90s R&B, '90s grunge, '90s metal.
Marvin Gaye, right?
No.
No, that's like I thought that was R&B.
No, that's even older.
That's
I think.
like soul stuff.
But like,
right?
let's think. I'm trying to think. I mean, Iron Maiden was more '80s. I remember my parents were huge. Like, they were like mega George Michael fans. Both my parents, and I would grow up listening to George Michael's music because obviously my parents would play it all the freaking time. So, but he has an amazing voice, and he's definitely one of my favorite singers, George Michael.
When were you born? What year?
95.
98.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like a baby. I haven't heard most of this music yet.
Yeah, like it was
Growing
quite the
up.
time.
Yeah. A lot of the music I got into was like the 2000s, like the rise of all
Oh,
that.
don't kid yourself. Me too. Like
Yeah.
I'm not so far. Like you're making me feel so old right
No,
now.
no, you make me
I'm
feel
only
old.
23, but
I'm
like
only 20.
yeah, but like I didn't like Fall Out Boy. I love to this day still. I love My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
That was a great band.
That New Jersey band too, right? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like they were revolutionary. They were one of the great. To me, they're one of the greatest bands of all
I
time.
still listen to them.
I still listen to them.
Yeah.
I'm still an MCR fan. I'll be an MCR fan to the day I die. Like, they best be playing Black Parade at my funeral.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You hear that? Please do that for him, please.
Or Helena, one of those songs by them, but one of them must be at my funeral, or I will haunt anyone.
Oh gosh. Hopefully not the podcast.
No.
I think I'll be on by then too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I listen to like a lot of rap music, but I like hip hop, but what I do is I have like all these coworkers, like I have this friend named Ulrich, he's going to be later on the podcast. he goes, "Yo, Joe, I met Kendrick Lamar. I met
Oh yeah,
J.
you told me
Rock."
that. Yeah.
I'll go, "Show me proof. Here's a photo." I'm like, "What?"
You see, Kendrick Lamar is one of the rappers that I actually like.
He's very influential.
Me personally, I mean, early 2000s rap, okay, I like it, I dig with it, but I'm not necessarily a fan of this new, like, mumble rap age.
No.
I'm not, like, with the, adding, the lil in front of your name and, like, just basically mumbling about, like...
I feel like that's been there since, like, you know, like Lil Wayne.
Yeah, but I feel like it's more prominent now because everyone's doing it. Lil Yachty,
Lil Uzi Vert.
Little Xan, Little Peep, Little... Like, there's so many littles. But,
There's only one Lil I do not care for, and that's Lil Pump.
I remember someone saying, like, rap from the 80s and 90s were telling people to stop doing drugs and, like, because they'll get you in the streets. Then, like, late 90s...
Yo, my name is Joe. I don't want to do drugs.
And then, like, late 90s, early 2000s rap talked about, like, you know, selling drugs. And then now the rap today is talking about actually doing drugs. So it's like...
Yeah. And then I actually was reading this story about... We were talking about Lil Peep for a little bit. He died of drugs, and most of his songs were
About drugs.
about drugs. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's like rest in peace. And it's
Yeah.
getting to points now. Like, you have all these like rappers, mumble rappers. People are like cherishing now. Like, rest in peace to X. Like,
No, but it's not just that, though. Like, me personally, my only thing against mumble rap is I'm just listening to it, and I go, what are they saying? I don't even understand what they're trying to say. Like,
Yeah.
physically, like, that's, I guess, the reputation of, like, mumble rap. You just don't know.
some
what
of
they're
it I do understand. Like, some of it is like, man, this hits me. This is pretty deep music. And then the rest of it's like, what is this?
saying. No, literally, it just sounds like they're, like, they have something stuck in their throat.
It brings
and
me
they're like,
back to like 2013 when like EDM was on the rise, like electronic dance
Oh.
music.
Don't
Like,
remind me. I remember I had a really bad dubstep phase.
oh my.
Really bad.
I remember dubstep and all those Call of Duty trick montages.
Yeah, that's all I would listen to is dubstep, and I'm just like, ugh, cringy to this day.
Used to listen to Skrillex, you know?
Oh, I was obsessed with Skrillex, Kill the Noise.
Deadmau 5.
Not so much Deadmau 5, but, you know.
Tiesto.
No, like Skrillex, Kill the Noise,
I'm trying to think.
there's like, I feel like there's
Martin
so many.
Garrix.
Yeah, a little bit Martin Garrix. I was really into that EDM scene too, but then I
Me
realized
too.
that it just like all sounds the same to me, so that's why I stopped listening to it.
That's like, I'm in the different genre, like more like rock music, kind of like Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, I love metal. I'm like
I've been listening to the Gaslight Anthem. My mom goes, his songs all sound the same. I'm like, yeah, because it's Brian Fallon.
It's funny because like I said, like I'm kind of a metalhead, and when my parents listen to my music, you just see their face, and they're just they have this most concerned face.
It's like, it must be like their jaws are dropped or something.
Legit, like they're like, because some of the music like my friends got me into, like one of my really good friends from college, Diego, he
Shout out to Diego.
yeah, shout out to Diego. He lives in Mexico, so hopefully he uses this. But
Just share it with them through YouTube.
Yeah.
That's where it's gonna be.
yeah, so he got me into all these metal bands, and a lot of the times they were like very borderline satanic metal bands.
What?
And yeah.
Oh my
but
gosh,
they
that's
were
some dark music.
They were so good. They were just so freaking good. So, like, I love that kind of music. Like, I say with metal, the heavier the better. I recently got into black metal and like black metal and like thrash.
What like what's that one band? Let the bodies hit the floor. Like,
Oh, I don't know. Wait.
I don't know. That's like metal to me. I don't know why. And they like scream the whole time.
Well, there's different kinds of metal. You don't necessarily have to scream. There's like fantasy metal, which
Pop
is like,
metal.
No,
Oh.
there's no pop. It's more like melodic metal where people are actually singing and not screaming.
Oh,
and,
good.
Like, it has like all harmonies and melodies, like Dragon Force, like Through the Fire and the Flames. That's a good song. That's a good band.
I'll probably listen to some of this.
Yeah. But yeah, metal's all a good time.
So we got a few more questions.
Sure.
Would you be willing to draw something for me,
Sure.
if possible? I need a new logo.
Sure.
Cause just look. Oh, now you're punning me. Sure. I'm kidding. I see. Yeah. If you ever want to.
Yeah, sure.
I will give a bunch of. Am I allowed to give like a bunch of links to like your Instagram and
Yeah,
stuff?
definitely.
So that way people can check you out.
Yeah. Like,
see your art. Maybe get in contact with you.
yeah, definitely.
More connections.
Yeah, I'll
Gotta get the
definitely.
art world
I'll send you the links, but just to say them now, like, you can follow me on Instagram. It's all lowercase. The name is @NickCaponeArt. On my Tumblr, you can read my webcomic Sandy on sandythecomic.tumblr.com. If you're on DeviantArt, because I know DeviantArt has its time periods where it's like dead and then it's like popping again. But if you're still on DeviantArt, it's just nickcapone.deviantart.com. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me.
Not MySpace. DeviantArt.
MySpace, I never had. I was never fortunate. My parents wouldn't let me have a MySpace growing up.
I never had one either, but I think my cousin had one.
Yeah, it was. They were fun. That was a fun time though. I hear MySpace.
Yeah. And then Facebook, Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, film. Yeah, so check us out. Make sure to like this podcast on YouTube, share it with your friends, and make sure to support the Sher Street podcast. So that way, I don't know, maybe I could get this on SoundCloud or Spotify, because I hear everything's popping on those two for music.
Sweet.
Well, thank you for coming on board the Sher Street podcast, man.
Thanks, man. Thank you
No
for
problem.
having me. I had a fun time.
Glad you did. Sorry the podcast has been a little messed up.
Look, it's your first video, so I mean, like,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't happen with anything, like with anyone. Mistakes, if you set something, you just get the mistakes out of the way.
You just
So,
pause it and start over.
Exactly. Easy.
That's what this one's all about.
Yeah.
It's the first episode.
Yeah.
And we're about to end it right now at 52:35 or something like that.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Peace. Woo!